mysterious radio signal picked up by a Russian telescope was probably not sent by aliens, but astronomers in California are checking it out anyway. The SETI Institute is at the forefront of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Its involvement has heightened speculation that little green men could be trying to make contact.
Picking up a signal is not an unusual thing. But this one was found by some Russian astronomers who are very competent. They found it in the direction of a star system that was intrinsically interesting because it was known to have a planet. So, of course, we're going to follow up on a signal like that.
It's over a year since what seemed to be a non-naturally occurring signal was detected 94 light-years from Earth. So what's the verdict?
Well, we didn't find anything over the range of frequencies where they thought they did. So maybe it was ET and he's just gone away. You know, he's on vacation, who knows? Or I think more likely it was probably just interference that, you know, some aircraft with radar that flew over their antenna when they were observing that particular part of the sky.
A down-to-earth explanation that might disappoint those hoping for signs of otherworldly activity. But we can't be sure either way, and the question remains, is there anyone out there?
A powerful weather system is barreling this morning toward Florida's Gulf Coast. Tropical Depression 9 is expected to strengthen into a tropical storm later today, and it could become a hurricane before making landfall tomorrow. Severe weather warnings cover most of the state. At the same time, a second depression threatens parts of North Carolina. Omar Villafranca is in Clearwater, Florida, where the downpours have already begun. Omar, good morning to you.
Good morning. The clouds that are moving through right now are only expected to drop about 1 to 2 inches of rain. But it's the storm that's more than 400 miles out in the Gulf that everybody's keeping a close eye on. From pounding rain and flooded streets in Florida to the dangerous surf in the Carolinas. Parts of the East Coast are already feeling the impacts from two powerful tropical weather systems, and bracing for more as a troubling forecast looms.
Hopefully this will be the worst weather we get this year, but we are going to have storm surge, we are going to have rain, we are going to have flooding, and we have the potential of tornadoes, and we're going to have rip currents.
As one system brushes the North Carolina coast, another is churning in the Gulf. That system has the potential to dump 15 inches of rain in parts of Florida before making its way across the peninsula and delivering a second round of severe weather to the Carolinas later this week. The system is expected to make landfall tomorrow, and there's coastal flooding that is expected in Florida's Big Bend before that system moves across to Georgia and the Carolinas.
Police recovered 9 bodies on Wednesday in a nursing home near the town of Iwazumi in Iwate Prefecture. The building was partially buried in mud and debris when the river overflowed. The town issued an evacuation preparation on Tuesday morning, but one official said it was not as strong as an evacuation warning. More than 1,000 other people were forced to evacuate by floods brought by Lion Rock. Several people on the northern island of Hokkaido were also reported missing.
A lightning strike in Norway has killed more than 300 reindeer in what wildlife officials are describing as an unusually large natural disaster. Footage showed the animals' bodies scattered across a mountain plateau in the centre of the country. The incident is said to have happened during a violent storm. Norway's Environment Agency says reindeer usually huddle together during bad weather, which could explain why so many were killed.
2 earthquakes have rattled one of the largest volcanoes in Iceland. The quakes at the Katla volcano struck early on Monday local time. Now they measured about 4.2 and 4.5 magnitude. Now, a scientist described the situation as, quote, a little bit unusual. They have been waiting for an eruption at this volcano for a long time. There's a location of it about 87 miles east of Reykjavik. That's the capital of Iceland. Now, this eruption, they've been waiting for about 50 years. It's been nearly a century since Katla's last major eruption.
So apart from lightning, one of the things that scares me the most is sinkholes. Look at that. Did you see that in the background? If you didn't, we're going to play it for you in slow motion again because you probably missed it like I did the first time. Look at this. Just a big old sinkhole that opens on this busy street. You got a lot of people walking around. This was in China, by the way. And the good news here is that nobody got hurt in this particular sinkhole. Just some minor injuries, and you can see that it wasn't terribly deep. But, you know, sinkholes come in many varieties. A lot of different things can cause them. We don't know exactly what caused this one. You know, you can have water runoff, you can have erosion, but they can get a whole lot deeper than that and a whole lot more dangerous too.
It is an awful smell out here, the kind of smell that really hits you right in the pit of your stomach. We're in the Tradewinds Marina because we just want to show you how the fish get caught up in the stagnant water. You can see thousands upon thousands of fish right below me, but this is all around this area, all in these marinas. You can see this kind of sight. But like we said, the smell out here is awful. The boat marinas in Keensburg are covered with what appears to be millions of peanut bunkerfish. Newscopter 7 did look down on the water, showing the scope of the fish killed this afternoon. They started coming in with the tide over the weekend and kept floating in the Waykay Creek until they pile on top of each other in stagnant water. We gotta say it again, the smell is horrible. Insects are starting to feast on the rotting carcasses of the dead fish pushed on shore by the high tide. During low tide, the fish fill the shoreline where they are baked in the sun. Officials believe low oxygen levels in the water led to this massive fish kill. Scientists say that's not unusual for that to happen during extremely hot summers. Residents say the same thing happened here about 8 years ago, but for now, the state DEP is investigating and residents are dealing with this once again awful smell.
I don't know where they came from, but it stunk, and it still stinks.
Oh, this smells bad. Like at night I woke up and I was ready to gag. You got to shut your windows. I even smell in my backyard. You can't really eat with it. It's nauseating.
Everywhere you look in the creek, you can see the bodies of the dead fish. They continue to float, and as far as the cleanup is concerned, it has not started yet. Officials hope they can start that tomorrow, but that will be left up to all of the local municipalities in the county to try to clean up all of these dead fish.
That isn't snow you're looking at, that is hail. This was wild yesterday evening in Colorado Springs. 2 feet of hail came down in Colorado Springs. This was all just east of the downtown area. They were also dealing with flash flooding. Now, these thunderstorms, they started to pop up late afternoon, early evening, and that's all the damage there. Now, fire department actually, they had to send out snow plows to clear all this because it was clogging drains. Also, there was a lot of flash flooding, causing some drivers to be in need of rescue. They also had to close some roads. Luckily, though, no injuries were reported.
A federal judge has blocked the state's controversial transgender bathroom law from being enforced at the University of North Carolina. The ruling means the school must allow 2 students and an employee to use restrooms matching their gender identity. CNN's Ariane DeVogue is in Washington for us, though the ruling only blocks part of the state's law, and North Carolina's governor says the law is still fully in effect. So explain all of this.
Well, you know, this case shows that there is a new frontier now in LGBT litigation, and that's transgender rights. What this judge did, as you said, is he temporarily blocked North Carolina's controversial bathroom law only for 3 individuals. That's 2 students and an employee at the University of North Carolina. What this judge said is, look, North Carolina could very well be caught between a state law and a federal law. And of course, North Carolina takes public funds. So the judge said, look, I'm going to put a halt to this now until I can have a full trial and hear this case on the merits. In the meantime, I will temporarily block it just for these 3 plaintiffs. So it looks like a limited ruling, but groups like Lambda Legal, the ACLU, they hope it's going to be the first step for this judge, and they hope he'll eventually strike down the entire law. And of course, on the other side, supporters say that the law was necessary for privacy reasons.
The terrible legacy of Ebola still endures. It's the latest in a long line of worrying developments. Before the 2014 outbreak, scientists believed the virus stayed in semen for 3 months. The latest analysis shows it can linger for over a year. The study has been published in Lancet Global Affairs. 429 men were tested between July last year and May 2016. They were part of the Liberian government's men's health screening program, the first national semen testing initiative for Ebola. 38 men tested positive for Ebola. Among them, nearly 2/3 still had fragments of the virus in their system a year after recovery. The virus lingers longer in men over the age of 40. In one case, it was detected at least 565 days after a man had recovered. Researchers say these findings are key to prevent flare-ups and to protect survivors and their families. In March last year, a Liberian woman died of Ebola after she had sex with a man who recovered from the virus. Liberia has rolled out a program of semen tests for male survivors over 15. Safe sex counselling and condoms are part of the initiative. The World Health Organization says all male Ebola survivors should be tested 3 months after the onset of symptoms and then monthly until they know they have no risk of passing on the virus.
Good evening. Kalgoorlie is in the grip of an uneasy peace tonight after it was split by violent race riots.
There are still extra police patrolling the streets to maintain order, with authorities and community leaders calling for unity. Liam Bartlett is in Kalgoorlie tonight, and Liam, all sides are backing change.
Tim, yes, Kalgoorlie has been hit very hard by what happened, and it is trying to effect change and trying to fix some of those problems. Behind me again tonight is another vigil in memory of the schoolboy who died. His family, his friends, extended family, some community members. We've also seen this afternoon a very strong show of unity from police, from community and Aboriginal leaders, and from government officials. We've also heard from a very brave young woman who is setting a powerful example. She's the teenager who quite literally put her body on the line between the protesters and the police to protect the police.
In the middle of the violence and chaos, a powerful moment of courage. An 18-year-old girl puts herself between police and her own people. Her mother joins in. Moments later, the girl steps in again. This time trying to fend off a boy attacking police. The street battles were sparked by the death of Indigenous teenager Elijah Doughty, allegedly run over by a white man in Kalgoorlie. These actions all the more remarkable because the girl is Elijah's cousin.
I know a lot of people will say that what they did yesterday was right, but it wasn't.
11 officers were injured in the violence. Hayley and her mother say things should never have gone that far.
They weren't there as a threat to us. It was really supposed to be a peaceful protest. I am sorry on behalf of the community that was there.
The pair insist many who were caught up in the riot were actually trying to calm the angry mob.
Fearful that someone could have been killed, could have been injured, and that's not what we went out to do.
They were trying to make the point that the others weren't.
Police were outnumbered 10-1 yesterday as tensions spilled over. Since then, dozens of extra officers have come in from Perth. Constant patrols and a takeaway alcohol ban, ensuring Kalgoorlie streets are almost back to normal. Helping the healing, these images went viral overnight. Thousands taking to social media to praise Hayley's dignity and bravery, calling her selfless and honourable by breaking the line of race. One online message saying it only takes one person to make a difference, so very proud of you.
I would have to say thank you, but I don't think that I'm brave.
It was just something I needed to do to calm the community.
I think they were a visual reminder to everyone that there was a great deal of people there, Aboriginal, who were not there to act unlawfully. What they did was incredibly brave.
Overnight, dozens of officers stood by as hundreds of Elijah's friends and relatives gathered at a vigil. Hours later in Perth, the 55-year-old man charged with manslaughter appeared in court from his prison cell where he'll stay until next month.
I think everyone just needs to come together.
ISIS says one of its top leaders is dead. The terror group says a strategist and chief spokesman Abu Muhammad al-Adnahi was killed near Aleppo, Syria. Holly Williams is in Istanbul. She's showing us why this could be a big setback for ISIS. Holly, good morning.
Good morning. Abu Muhammad al-Adnani has been regarded by some as the second most powerful figure within ISIS, linked to deadly attacks in Europe. The US has a $5 million bounty on his head, but still has not confirmed whether he's been killed.
The US-led coalition targeted Abu Muhammad al-Adnani with a precision airstrike near the town of Al-Bab in Aleppo province in northern Syria. It's an area where ISIS has been losing territory. The extremist group said Adnani was killed while inspecting operations. Born in Syria, Adnani was a mysterious figure, rarely captured on camera, his face blurred in the only video we have of him. As chief spokesman for ISIS, Adnani incited his followers in the West to kill non-Muslims wherever they could, in so-called lone wolf attacks. Smash his head with a rock or slaughter him with a knife or run him over with your car, he said in a speech in 2014. Adnani was also an architect of external operations for ISIS, according to the Pentagon, reportedly recruiting fighters and instigating deadly attacks, including those in Paris and Brussels. The Pentagon said earlier this year that 25,000 ISIS fighters have been killed by US coalition airstrikes. But Adnani was no ordinary fighter, and his death could be a devastating blow to ISIS.
The government of Iraq claimed to have hit Adnani with an airstrike in January, wounding him critically, but that was never confirmed.
Talal Marat is one of the fortunate ones who have escaped the Islamic State group's brutal onslaught against the Yazidi minority in northern Iraq. When IS fighters descended on his uncle's farm near the Sinjar Mountains, the message was clear: convert to Islam or die.
One of them started to ask, "Who wants to be a Muslim?" He repeated that once or twice and no one accepted. He said, "Come on outside."
IS fighters separated the men from the women and children.
There were too many of us there, so they forced some of us to lie down on the ground. And it was then my uncle told us to run because they were going to kill all of us.
Marat fled to safety, hearing distant gunfire as the male members of his family were shot to death. The area around the Sinjar Mountains is dotted with mass graves from IS's attack on the Yazidis. The Associated Press has documented 72 such burial sites containing up to 15,000 bodies. The size of the dot on this map is based on the number of known bodies at a given site. Many more are expected to be uncovered as the Islamic State's territory shrinks. With the help of satellite photos, experts have been able to pinpoint likely areas where bodies have been buried. This photo, taken in 2013, shows a field near Mosul. Here's a look at the same area 8 months later, after reports that IS fighters stormed a jail and killed the prisoners in front of a nearby ravine.
According to the reports, a number of the bodies, they would fall into the ravine, and some managed to survive. In this whole area, we see that the earth, the actual dirt, has been pushed over. You can see looks like a little bit of a scalloped edge that is being pushed over the ravine.
But the process of excavating and trying to identify remains in the graves has been slow. At a site north of the Sinjar Mountains, staff from the regional Kurdish government took DNA samples from remains and reburied the bodies. But some worry the Iraqi labs aren't properly equipped to handle the daunting task.
Look, we have a huge number of victims. For this work, we'd like the international community to help us and to cooperate with us in matching these samples and to examine the DNA samples.
More grave sites remain untouched, surrounded by fences awaiting examination. As each week passes, chances worsen that a body will be identified and that proof of a crime will be uncovered.
I want my husband to have a grave, so during Eid and other events I can take the children to see their father's grave, and we can visit him always.
Now living in a refugee camp for Yazidi people, Talal Marat and his mother await permission to move his father's body. Robert Bumstead, Associated Press.